All right, so this is my Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra review. I'm not going to keep you here too long, straight to the point, so let's get right to it. So right now, this is the best all-around smartphone of 2024. We'll see if that's the case at the end of the year, but you still have things like the S Pen that lives inside of this phone, so you can write, you can draw, you can sign contracts, whatever, and it's something that I don't use all the time, but when I do need to use it, I'm glad I have it with this phone. Now, I do wish one year that they would add like a Bluetooth microphone inside of it so you can use it for interviews and recordings and stuff, but I know that's a tall task because the S Pen is so small. But yeah, you still have Samsung DeX that basically turns this into like a laptop, and it's a powerful feature that I also don't use all the time, but if I was in a pinch, it would be nice to have. And then also, this phone still does have one of the most capable all-around camera systems that you can get on a smartphone, and the main reason is because of these zoom ranges. Yeah, you can get up to the 100 times space zoom, which still is one of those things I would never really post on social media a lot, but it is cool to try out. But from anywhere from 1 to 30 times zoom, this phone performs very consistent as far as like the quality and the sharpness and the clarity of the photos in that zoom range. And even if you do go up to 50 times zoom, you're still getting some really good quality. And then this phone does have a 200 megapixel camera inside of this thing, so when you do want to crop in after the fact, this is a really good opportunity for you to be able to kind of reframe the photo and get it a little bit like you wanted to, and change kind of the feeling of the photo by just cropping in and moving it over left and right.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about AI these past couple of years, and Samsung has put some AI inside of this phone. So I'm doing a screen recording of one of the photo features that I have been using a lot, and I am using the built-in microphone on this S24 Ultra, so you can get an idea of how that sounds. Anyway, to get to some of these AI photo features, just hit this little blue button right here, and now I can practically tap on anything in the photo, but I'm just going to tap and hold on my friend Jojo here, and you can see that originally he is a little off-centered from the St. Louis arch in the background, so I'm going to move him over just a little bit right there, release it, and then now hit the generate button, and this will be filling in that kind of new empty space that I created by moving him over just a little bit, and it should look pretty natural as it gets done here. In 3, 2, 1, boom, there we go. And you can see the results are pretty good. Now I can actually show you the original photo here. As you can see, he was over there a little bit off, and then now he's mostly centered. Now, of course, if you were to zoom in and do some pixel peeping, you'll be able to see some distortion in certain areas. But again, especially for social media, this is going to be perfect for just doing some little touch-ups with your photos. But of course, you can have fun and move cars and move bigger objects around the photo, or you can actually just remove these objects from the photo itself and just kind of make for a cleaner image. But something like this is what I'm going to be mostly using it for.
And then there is a feature that will allow you to fill in the kind of the outside frame of the photo that doesn't exist already. So maybe you accidentally cut something out. Now you can use this to be able to expand that photo, and it will again do its best to try to fill it in with something that matches up with that space that it's going to be next to. And when it comes to video, there is an AI feature that will actually slow down a video that wasn't taken with the slow-mo mode on this phone. So it will basically add in extra frames where they don't exist and allow you to get some very smooth video. Now, one thing I did know is that when I was spinning my rifle here, shout out to ROTC rifle spinners out there. But anyway, I did notice that something very fast moving like this, I did see my rifle coming in and out of the video. And I think that's basically because some of those extra frames might not just be able to keep up with something very fast moving like that. But for most other things, I think the performance will be fine using this feature. Now, sticking with video, you still can take 8K video at 30 frames per second. Now, this video that you're watching is exported at 4K, so you can't get the full capabilities of that 8K video, but go check out my video I took with the S23 Ultra last year up in New York City. It's all 8K 30 frames per second, and that will show you the results that you can get on this phone when it comes to that, and it looks pretty good, I would have to say myself. But anyway, I'll leave that link down below. But just getting back to the photos real quick, so overall the photos are good. If you do some side-by-side comparisons with like Pixel phones and iPhones, you will see that this phone will do better sometimes and also worse at times. But just looking at the photos by itself, they come out really nicely. But when the photos don't come out how I want, that's usually dealing with the highlights and the exposure just being turned up just a little bit. I would like to see the camera just automatically just drop that down just a tad. That would be my personal preference. But I do like the colors that are reproduced on this phone. They are a little bit more toned down compared to other Galaxy phones phones from the past. Some people like that, some people don't, but you can always make it a little bit more vivid in post if you wanted to. But bottom line, with the camera system on this phone, there's really not that much you can't do. And I can say the same thing about the software on this phone. Basically, everything is where it needs to be. That's the best way I can describe One UI running on top of Android 14 on this phone. It's very fast performance, smooth, no matter if you're playing games or watching videos or just doing a lot of multitasking. I had no issues. And as I go into the settings, everything is usually where I expect it to be. I don't do a lot of digging and then I have to go back out or use the search feature. So I really like how Samsung has laid everything out. Just one of the cleanest versions of One UI that Samsung has ever done when it comes to the animations and things. So no problems with the software. And the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 inside of this does allow for very good gaming. No problems when I'm playing Call of Duty, and a gaming controller works just fine with this phone. Not a lot of overheating or anything like that. And also the battery life is rock solid on this phone. I would say a day and a half is what I can expect with this phone with average use. So from starting at 100% on day one all the way into the morning of the next day, I usually find myself with like 25 to 30% battery left. And then that should be able to get me to maybe around lunchtime that day before I really need to put it on a charger. Now, as far as charging speeds, they're pretty good. You can get to 0 to 65% in around like 30 minutes or so. And it still does have wireless charging and also reverse wireless charging. But I do want to see Samsung compete a little bit more with the likes of OnePlus when it comes to overall charging speeds. And OnePlus can get you from like 0 to 100 in like, 20 or 30 minutes or so. Very, very fast. I don't know the exact times. But yeah, I would like to see this phone that is labeled Ultra just be really more competitive when it comes to charging speeds. Now let's jump back to the software for a second. So you do have some widgets that you can have to the lock screen. So you can have your calendar, weather, different things like that. Very useful to have. And you still do have the face unlock and also the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner that's on this phone. Still very reliable. I very rarely have any misses with the fingerprint scanner. And this does have an AI feature for live translation when you are on a phone call. But I did find that this did work pretty well when it's translating what I'm saying via the S24 Ultra to someone else. But I did experience that when it is translating what the other person is saying, that it did mess up probably 50% of the time. So it wasn't as accurate as it was when it was translating my voice.
And one of the more talked about AI features is this collaboration that Samsung has done with Google with this circle to search. And this has come to Pixel phones, but anyway, it launched on Samsung phones first. But say I wanted to find out who this guy was. I know who he is because I am an MMA fan. But anyway, I could just press down and hold on kind of like this fake home button here on the screen. And then now it's ready for me just to simply like tap on him. And then it will automatically bring up some search results with that. And now you can see in real time here, this is not the greatest. I did this before and I got a way better result. So this isn't perfect, but if I tap out, and now you can see that it gave me more information and more articles and stuff for me to be able to know exactly who this person is. And to see how this works here with this thumbnail here for one of my videos on this power station here from Jackery. And it did get the right name, the Explorer 1000 here. And then also, again, it'll take me to the where I can actually buy this power station and stuff. So overall, it does give you pretty close to what you're looking for. Not perfect, but over time, I expect this to get better as AI evolves.
But also the software can like summarize maybe some notes and things that you might have, and it can basically put them into like bullet points and stuff, which is pretty cool. I don't find myself doing it that much, but those AI features are nice. And some of those features are things that I will miss when I'm not using this phone, but that might not be the case for you, but for me, it is. Now, we made it all of this way without talking about the design just yet, so let's do that. So compared to the S23 Ultra from last year, you can see it's very similar looking. Around the camera modules here on the back, you will find that it's a little bit more shinier, a little bit sexier here with the S24 Ultra, but very similar looking. You still have some very flat sides around this phone that does allow it to feel very nice and boxy in your hand. And then also new this year is that it is a flat display compared to the curved display on the S23 Ultra. And this flat screen rounds out, it's just kind of weird to say because it's flat, but it rounds out the overall feel of this phone in my hand. I just love a flat screen these days, so that's definitely my personal preference. And when it comes to the actual screen quality, it's bright, it looks really nice. One thing that people have noticed is that in the vivid mode of this, where you can change that in the settings as far as the colors of the screen, it's more muted than it was last year. And I think the word on the street is that Samsung is going to be working on making those colors a little bit more lively, or at least giving you an option to do that when you are using vivid mode. But personally, the regular normal mode does look good to me. Watching videos and HDR content, all that stuff really shines on a phone like this, especially with this big 120 hertz screen. But I will say that I did find myself using this pretty expensive phone without a case most of the time, just because I just love the way this phone feels in my hand. But when I did want to use a case, UAG did send over some cases. This isn't a sponsor piece, but they send over some cases that did allow me to protect this phone if I am using it outside and getting a little risky with it, but also add some MagSafe capabilities to it. And they are pretty good looking cases, so I do recommend them. So I wasn't keeping count, but there are definitely way more positives about this phone than there are negatives. But this phone still does cost $1,300, and that's a lot of money, especially for being a non-foldable phone. But I will say that this is one of those phones that you buy if you're not planning to upgrade for like 4 or 5 years, not only because of the build quality and just the performance that you get right now, but also because Samsung has extended the security and just the software updates for this phone to 7 years. So Android updates and security updates 7 years from now, you should be able to get those on this phone. So that's pretty nice to see. But if you have the S23 Ultra from last year, I don't feel that there's a lot of FOMO with this phone where you feel like you're missing out on some of the features, maybe the AI features that I showed you. But outside of that, you still have a great performing phone with that phone from last year. But if it's been a while, this phone is definitely going to be a nice upgrade, and it'll make you feel like you're in 2024 with something that performs very nicely all the way around. But that's all I have to say. Drop a comment down below and let me know what you think. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.